My crazy ex-girlfriend goes absolutely berserk when she finds out that I went on a vacation trip that she has always dreamed of without her, saying that we could have gone together as friends. And now because of her, all of my friends are starting to turn on me, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. My ex-girlfriend and I were together for almost 3 years. She always dreamed of taking a vacation to a country she loves, so for our 3-year anniversary, I wanted to surprise her with this vacation. But she ended up breaking up with me about 2 months before the trip because according to her, we weren't working out anymore as a couple. It was really hard for me, but there was nothing else to do other than respect her decision. So I accepted the breakup and moved on with my life. At the end, the breakup was pretty amicable, but I still paid for the trip I was planning to take with her. My first plan honestly was to get a refund, but I would lose almost half of what I paid for because most of the planned activities weren't refundable. About a month after the breakup, I reconnected with an old friend and we hit it off. We started talking more frequently and started spending more time together, but kept everything very casual. I was still stuck with a trip I booked, and instead of losing half the money, I decided to ask my friend if she wanted to take this trip with me, and she agreed. We ended up taking the trip together, and it honestly was a great time. I didn't really tell anybody about this, or post anything on social media at all, really. On the other hand, my friend did the opposite, and ended up putting a lot of pictures up on her social media feed. And because of this, my ex found out that I took this trip with my friend instead of her. When we returned from the trip, I got a call from my ex-girlfriend saying that I hurt her feelings for doing something she always wanted with another woman, and that we could have taken the trip as friends, whatever that means. I just told her that we are no longer together, and further explained that I did not owe her this in the slightest, and that I have moved on. Because of this, my ex-girlfriend started talking, and I ended up getting flamed by our mutual friend for being an insensitive jerk, and for not taking her feelings into consideration, even though she's the one that dumped me 2 months before our trip. How can that possibly be my fault? I feel like this is a lot of unnecessary drama for no reason. I honestly don't want these friendships of the past few years to break up because of my breakup. What is the best way to deal with this situation here? What should I do? How obnoxious of your girlfriend to not only break up with you 2 months before this trip, but to then turn around and try and pretend she has some say over who you can and cannot bring on this trip. I mean, that's just disgusting. It's also incredibly rude and just so inappropriate. She has no say in the matter. She broke up with you, not the other way around. This lady actually thought that they could have gone on this trip as friends. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. If my girlfriend broke up with me and then still demanded to go to, I don't know, Disney World together, and if I somehow agreed to that, I would be miserable. I spent all that money just for someone to be with me who does not love me? No way in the world you can get out and leave. Like, this ex literally can't expect you to take her to such a vacation that you paid for, by the way, as friends after she broke up with you. That would honestly ruin any semblance of an attempt that you would have to try and cope with the situation in which your ex broke up with you. And honestly, that must have been so awkward trying to find somebody else to go with you on this stupid trip. And also, as a side note, the fact that this friend is freaking out on you is more than enough proof that they are not a mutual friend, but instead are very much on the side of your ex-girlfriend. And I really don't think you need that in your life. So yeah, if your crazy ex-girlfriend really is this upset about you going on a trip that you paid for, you can always kindly remind her that she did this to herself, and that if she's unhappy with her decisions and the way things turned out, she only has herself to blame. I moved in with my friend's boyfriend, and at first he seemed nice, but now he's very rude. How do I handle this situation? My friend and I are pretty close. We're not best friends, but we have a good relationship with each other, and have known each other for 6 years. My friend is now engaged with her boyfriend, but they don't live with each other because she lives in a different state and they do long distance dating. While I was looking for a room, my friend's boyfriend, whom I didn't know before but was only semi-close with, happened to have a spare bedroom for me to rent. My friend's boyfriend seemed alright from the few times I hung out with him, so I decided to move in for a little while. At first, the guy seemed fine and pretty nice while I was living there. His mother and father were nice too, but slowly as I hung out with him more, he started making ruder comments to me, and I started noticing that he had a tendency to sort of be rude to other people as well, in front as well as behind their backs. For example, he would make really nasty comments about the fact that I'm still single, saying stuff like, "Don't take dating advice from her, she's 27 and still single." He also keeps pushing me to get together with some of his friends, which honestly makes me incredibly uncomfortable. He also mocks me by saying I'm a loner, and even says that he wants to see what I'm like when I'm angry and mad. He and his friend group seem to have fun choosing to pick on someone whenever they hang out, and it honestly seems pretty toxic and hurtful, especially to whoever gets chosen to get picked on that day. The things they make fun of is usually about their weight and their singleness. I also noticed that he seems very two-faced. For example, after his his engagement party, he talked about a mutual friend of ours, saying that she was old and still single. I felt bad because the girl came to his engagement party to congratulate him and even bought flowers. But despite all that, he was saying really nasty things about her behind her back. So I need advice on how to handle this awkward relationship with my friend's boyfriend, who is unfortunately my roommate. I'm planning to move out, and I decided I definitely don't like the boyfriend, but I still like my friend. Should I just pretend that everything is all right until I move out, or should I give him a bit of the cold shoulder to hopefully get him to stop bothering me? I don't want to confront him because I'd rather just not interact with him anymore. Also, should I even go to their wedding? I really don't want to, but I feel bad because I feel like my friend is expecting me, but she doesn't know that I hate her boyfriend. What should I do? I think the fact that you understand that you need to move out is a huge first step. Too often people have crappy roommates and they think to themselves, oh, I can't leave. Like, this is where I live and this is just my life now. I gotta put up with it. When instead, you could very easily get rid of these people from your life and find a happier life in front of you. There's no reason for you to put up with this, and the way he's talking to you is completely inappropriate. If the moving date is further than usual, then I would give him the cold shoulder. But if I'm about to move out of that house and I have the opportunity, you can bet I'm gonna tell him exactly how I feel. Bottling up that kind of emotion and just letting it simmer is only gonna make you hate your friend. And it's honestly going to be your roommate's fault overall. I think also it might be a good thing to let your friend know exactly how he is behind closed doors. He mocks and belittles people because they are or are not in a relationship. He makes fun of people's weight, and he has said some pretty ridiculous, terrible slurs in the past that I intentionally left out of this story that are incredibly terrible and not something anybody would want to deal with. Just imagine how your friend is going to feel if after 6 months of her living with this guy, he starts treating her like this. Wouldn't you want to know ahead of time that your future husband is actually a piece of garbage? I know I would. So yeah, depending on the timing of your moving out, there's a lot of ways you can handle this, but hopefully however you do handle it, it works out and you are able to get away from this terrible roommate. I went through something very scary last night and my boyfriend couldn't be there for me. And now I'm irrationally upset at him and I don't know what to do. Last night, I was being followed on foot in the dark in an unfamiliar area for close to an hour by a man in his 50s. It was blatant and very scary, even though he didn't try to talk to me or do anything except follow me. I tried to call my boyfriend for comfort or for advice, or at least to have someone who would know what was happening, but he was at a movie and his phone was off. I tried to text and call my friends in my group chat, but none of them answered. I was walking around aimlessly for a while, trying to shake off the guy because I didn't want him to know where I was staying. At the time, I was in an Airbnb alone for 2 weeks in the middle of nowhere while my condo undergoes repairs, but eventually I speed walked back to the Airbnb. As I was getting in, one of my friends called me back and calmed me down for 30 minutes on the phone. An hour and a half later, my boyfriend finally called, but all he did was ask if I was okay and that if I was safe. Once I confirmed that I was okay, he went ahead and just hung up the phone. Our call was 30 seconds. I guess it's because he had just gotten out of the movie, but it makes me feel like he doesn't care. What's upsetting me the most though is the fact that he didn't answer the phone. I know he didn't know that I was calling because his phone was off, and I know there's no reason to be angry at him, but it made me feel really alone and very unsafe and uncared for. I don't know how to get past this feeling, even though I know it's irrational. Should I just give it time, or should I tell him how I feel? What should I do? You know when your girlfriend looks at you after waking up and saying, I had a dream you cheated on me, and then gets pissed off about you in this dream? This sounds like that. Why on earth would you try and call everybody under the sun besides the police because some guy's following you around for an hour? If that's really what was going on, you should have called the police. Like, that is literally who you should have called first. Instead, you called everybody else for some reason, and now you're upset that your boyfriend didn't have his phone on at a movie theater and didn't call you back? I mean, what exactly did he do wrong? Sure, he just got out of a movie theater and he only called you for 30 seconds to check up on you, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't care. I think you're just overreacting in this situation. The original poster in this story, by the way, is 25 years old, and I would honestly hope at this age you would be more independent and able to take care of yourself. Even if you did get in contact with your boyfriend, there's literally nothing he could have done. By the time he even got there, this guy probably still would have been following you around. In contrast, police officers could have been there within minutes. You should have called the police immediately. In fact, when you got back to the Airbnb, you should have done that immediately as well. It doesn't matter how awkward or how uncomfortable you may have felt, call them anyways. You quite literally put yourself in danger by choosing to call everybody and their mother for over an hour instead of the very people that could save your life. Which, by the way, this could have been a lot worse, but it sounds like you understand that it's very irrational for you to be upset with your boyfriend, and I think it's the fact that the phone call only lasted 30 seconds, and I think that that's what's really upsetting you, combined with the fact that you feel very vulnerable and scared, which is totally valid, by the way, but to take it out on your boyfriend is just not the right right move in my opinion. I think if anything, talk to him and explain to him, hey, I went through this really traumatic thing and I really need you to be there for me right now. If you explain it like that, he will absolutely come to your side and he will be there for you. So yeah, I wouldn't take this out on your boyfriend. He didn't do anything wrong. And next time you're in a sketchy situation like that and time is on your side to get away from this weirdo, just call the police. Otherwise, things could have ended very poorly. My boyfriend plays video games all day and I feel like my attraction is dwindling down. What should I do? So my boyfriend that I've been with for a year left his old job about a month and a half ago. He used to work 12-hour shifts and bring in a lot of money, but it was a toxic work environment, so he left. He can't work or make any money right now because he isn't eligible to do so under the law in the country which we live in. He unfortunately doesn't have an open work permit. So from the minute he wakes up until he goes back to sleep, he's playing video games and will be doing this until September when he hopefully gets admitted to start school. He still gives me attention intermittently and we go out on the weekends, but I can't help but feel like my attraction to him is going down because of it. On top of that, he doesn't have an income coming in anymore other than his parents graciously helping us out, and this is possibly going to be going on for 2 years. So I'm responsible for a lot more financially. I understand he's not able to work, but I saw him as a person that would want to do other things that help him grow as a person, especially during this time off. I'm not against playing video games, and I get that he needs his rest after working so hard, but playing video games all day, every day, I feel is a little excessive after a month and a half. My question is, I don't want to get between him and his games, but I was wondering if approaching him about this would be helpful. What should I do? I think in this situation, your feelings are totally valid, and him constantly gaming is kind of a turnoff. Like, that's completely understandable. I think having an honest conversation with him about it and saying, hey, this is not okay, and I really don't like who you're becoming, is completely rational and not stepping over any kind of line in my opinion. I'm sure you miss the hardworking man who used to work 12-hour shifts and bring in all this money. So for him to change suddenly into this guy who just sits around and plays video games all day is probably very jarring. On that same side of it, this guy probably has never had the chance to play video games like this in a very long time. Just imagine working 12 hours every day at a company that treats you like garbage and facilitates a toxic work environment. As someone who has been in that situation before, I would probably want to play video games all the time as well. Maybe this is a case where things got out of hand pretty quickly and he's in a really bad habit and he might not realize it entirely. So sitting down and having a conversation with him and talking to him about what's going on in his life, I think would be really helpful for both of you in the long run. My brother has been drifting away from family and his mental health is going downhill fast, which all honestly seems to be connected to his girlfriend. What should I do? My brother has always been reasonably introverted. For the years of adulthood prior to his relationship, and even for the first year-ish of it, I would say that we had a pretty good relationship. He moved in with her out of my parents' house relatively quickly, and the house he moved into is extremely close to them. They had a bit of a strained relationship with him immediately prior to him leaving, and throughout our lives, I've definitely noticed a bit of a personality clash between a type A parent and a more laid-back child. The girl is very antagonistic towards myself and my partner, becomes greatly irritable and defensive if we ask her clarifying questions in a normal conversational manner. She is the definition of a keyboard warrior and seems to think of herself as a martyr for the mentally ill. She has a new job in the mental health and addictions field. She also always asks to leave right in the middle of dinner as well as family gatherings, completely disregarding the fact that the meal was specifically made to go around her dietary restrictions. I've watched her belittle my brother at family gatherings, plan his life out loud for him in front of us, lecture him about going to the doctor, doing X, Y, and Z, complain about his friends, and paint them as horrible people who alienated him, and coax him into only hanging out with her friends. When they are in the same room, they sit on completely opposite sides of the room and don't look at each other. He stares at the floor and barely responds to us when we try to include him in the conversation at family gatherings. His presentation is obviously signifying that he is depressed and defeated. She went away over the holidays last year, and that was the first time I had seen my brother make eye contact with me or my parents, let alone laugh or talk about hanging out with one of his friends in at least a year. He currently isn't working because he has to pass a test to be certified to work, and my parents have been partially supporting him financially. He was diagnosed with ADHD, and suddenly he behaves as though he is incapable of functioning in a classroom or even writing tests, even though he has now completed a degree and did quite well. It makes me wonder if he wants to work in the field at all. It also begs the question of whether or not he is just used to his girlfriend's family's wealth, as well as them semi-supporting him, and just doesn't have the drive because of that. Or if this has something to do with being a mental health martyr, and he has convinced himself that his ADHD is so disabling that he is delaying taking any kind of tests and moving forward with his life. I confronted him recently about ignoring my text messages, as well as avoiding the family and only contacting me when when it's convenient for him. He said it's because of his concerns with money and that he's just too stressed out. I asked him if he was allowed to answer any kind of messages on his own, because I've had a hunch that this girl reads his messages, and that's why he doesn't answer them or have contact with his friends and family. After I asked him this, he would not directly answer me. He got incredibly nervous and started to skirt around the issue, and this only makes me think that this girl screens his text messages. And this isn't even close to everything. This also leaves out the drama where she already had beef with his friend group in the first place, so there's already a bad history there just to start. I typically like to keep the time I have around my brother chill, so I don't push him away, but he's already being pushed away. How do I deal with this or even approach this issue in the first place? I have told my parents that I believe she is hurting him and keeping him away from us, but I'm wondering if further steps need to be taken. Do I just need to learn how to deal with him being away from the family? How much do I keep trying to be in contact with him if he rarely even answers? What should I do? It obviously sounds like that this girlfriend is not a good fit, and that instead of being a supportive person in this guy's life, she's instead driving him away from his family and friends, which by the way is very toxic. Unfortunately though, there's not a lot you really can do in this situation, besides being really open with your brother and trying to be there for him. If the text messages that you send to him are being screened by his girlfriend, then by all means do not bring up anything about his girlfriend. She's gonna see it and treat him even worse. I think if anything, maybe pull him aside and have a private conversation about it. That might be your best bet, but any kind of written communication will most likely be intercepted by his girlfriend. And if she's as bad as you think she is, then those conversations will only make things worse. So even though he can't be in your life more because of his girlfriend, you can make the decision to make a better effort at being more in his life, even if the girlfriend doesn't like it. It might be your best bet to show him that, hey, you can get out of this relationship, and yes, there is family and friends available that do love you. Because if this lady really is as bad as you say she is, then I'm positive that your brother really is depressed, and he could definitely use the support right about now. My fiance hasn't been helping with anything for the past 2 years, and I don't know if we should be together anymore. What should I do? I have been with my fiance for 8 years. We have a child together, and we're currently staying with family. We have had our ups and downs like normal couples do, and I've stuck by him through all of it. For the past 2 years though, he's been blaming everything on me. He doesn't help with the cleaning, he doesn't help with our child, he doesn't really do anything except play video games and hang out with his friends. I've been trying to help him find a job, but he doesn't want to work. He then complains that I'm not making enough money and I need a better job, but won't take me to interviews. As a side note, I currently don't drive. He doesn't come home until early hours of the morning, claiming he only left a couple of hours ago, so he doesn't see what the big deal is. He then proceeds to sleep all day while I'm at work, so I have to find someone else to watch our child. I told him that we needed to talk this morning before work, but he went to sleep instead, so now I have to wait even longer just to talk to him. I honestly don't know what to do. I want to tell him that I don't think we should be together anymore, but then I'll have nowhere to go. I'll have to sleep in the same house as him just so I can see my child. I don't want to take her away from the only family she really knows. I don't know what to do in this situation, as I really don't want to throw away an 8-year relationship. It's very surprising to me that this guy doesn't want to work, even though both of you are engaged and you had a child together already. Like, that is a really bad sign. And the fact that he's not willing to step up and help take care of your child, but instead just wants to sleep and lay around all day is not okay. And that is most definitely a conversation that both of you need to have. And this is not easy. You've been with this guy for 8 years, not even to mention the kid you had together. There's obviously some deep-seated history here that you can't just ignore. And it really would be sad for your kid not to have a father-type figure in their life, because they honestly deserve to have a happy family. But from the sounds of it, your fiance is not putting in the work. So I wish you the best of luck in having this conversation with him, because hopefully he can get his act together and start supporting you and taking care of your child, because otherwise I can definitely see this falling apart, and I don't think either of you want that. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the Cream of the Crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.